Hello dear viewers, and thank you for watching another randomised gaming video with me, the editor, Random Gamer Riven. So if you follow us on Twitch, then you'll know I've been streaming my way through the entire of the classic Sega Saturn dungeon crawler RPG, Shining the Holy Ark, which was the second of 3 games in the Shining series released on the Sega Saturn. Following the live action RPG installment Shining Wisdom, that was very much similar to Zelda in terms of gameplay. This one would return the series to its first person dungeon route by using the gameplay format of the original game in the series, Shining in the Darkness. Just doing pretty much everything bigger and better this time around. It would also act as a story prequel to the huge Behemoth game that would follow in the form of the Shining Force 3 trilogy, with story elements such as Glam and Julian being carried over into Shining Force 3. A truly fantastic RPG, one that sadly doesn't get the credit it deserves, I have to admit, in part due to the failure of the Sega Saturn in Western gaming markets. That meant only a limited number of people ever really got to experience, seeing as the Saturn just didn't sell that well at all over here. And at present there is no re-release, there is no HD remaster or remake on its way, so at present it's going to stay like that. This really is a bit of a curio gem, and unless you know about it, most people will have slightly just skipped it over. Which is a real shame, as this is one of the best dungeon crawling RPGs ever made, with a superbly crafted cast of characters and a visual look to the world that puts the rather bland and cheap looking Ethereal Odyssey games to shame, despite the fact they sell vastly more numbers on the Nintendo Switch and the DS series of consoles. Now, the way I've done this video this time around is I've effectively edited it into 2 sections. The first half will be me looking at some of the many cheats and hints and tips actually in the game, and we have some exclusive cheats that I don't believe have ever been released in English before, so that's going to be interesting, so stay watching this first half if you want to know some really cool features. Then the second part of this video has been digging up my old level 99 save file, which I did in the 90s, so yep, it really is a very old save file, and you can see me slaughtering my way through to the final boss, taking down both Rilix and Panzer without breaking a sweat. All while listening to Motoya Sakabura's iconic music score. So I won't be saying a word while I finish the game during that section of the video, and I'll also be showing the ending at the end of it. Now, without further ado, let's get on with this video. But it goes without saying, if you like this video, then please do hit the like button, stay watching it to the end, and consider subscribing to us here at Randomised Gaming. It's very much appreciated. There's the bell button if you want additional notification. And this really has been quite a lot of hard work, as I've been doing quite a lot of research, testing out the cheats and checking them as well and getting them translated. A lot of these cheats I've discovered were on Japanese websites, but no one had actually translated them or released them into English, as far as I can tell, until now. Also, as always, all footage shown here comes directly from original hardware and copies of the game, which I've captured myself specifically for this video. Which does mean our videos are quite a lot longer to produce, but at least I know all the footage you're seeing is from original hardware. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about, and we did cover this in our previous Shining the Holy Ark video, is the additional character Doyle. Of the 8 party members, he is the only one that is effectively regarded as a hidden or secret character, because you can beat the game without recruiting him. The other 7 characters all have to be recruited to finish the game. Most of you likely know how to get him, but just in case you're a new player to the game and you're struggling to find him, here goes. So firstly, you have to progress to the point of the game where you're about to battle Rilix for the first time in Enrich. This is done by completing the South Shrine and is around about halfway through the game. You will have obtained Akane, the 5th party member, at this point. And once you have defeated Rilix in Enrich, you can then go to the various shrines. However, instead of going to the various shrines, head back to Far East Village to speak again with Rodi and Akane's father. This will trigger a cutscene where he will tell you Doyle has recovered from the wounds he received when fighting Panzer. However, when he goes to summon Doyle, he discovers that Doyle is no longer around, despite the fact Doyle has previously now mentioned he would like to join your cause. So he will tell you to go look for Doyle in effect. Now leave Far East Village and return to Desire Village. You can now use the North Road as the barriers blocking you previously have been released. In Desire Village, head to the back of the tavern and you'll notice there is a small wall section of grass. Strangely enough, if you visited this section prior to this area, you will notice that there was no tree here. A new tree has strangely now appeared, so approach the tree and search it. You will find out that this tree is none other than Doyle in disguise, who admits he's been in hiding to get away from the shame of being defeated, but he will now join your cause in battle, and he acts as a great combat party member. In fact, he's one of the hardest hitters in the party with the Mithril Claw. And another little bit of trivia for you, and something some players may want to note, that the story order of obtaining the extra characters or additional team members is supposed to go in the following order: Akane, Fort, Doyle and Lisa. That's as long as you find Doyle. However, it is possible to recruit Lisa before Akane and Fort. Doyle always must be obtained after Akane and Fort, but Lisa can be obtained before Akane. To do this, having cleared the South Shrine and obtained the sword, don't return to Far East Village and speak to the Elder. Instead, head straight to either Enrich to heal up and then go to the West Shrine and use the sword on the West Shrine seal. This will then release it and allow you to proceed through the West Shrine. And of course, once you clear the West Shrine, you unlock Lisa at the end. It's fair to say that this is purely an optional thing to do, and it does mean both Akane and Fort miss out on the West Shrine experience, and as Lisa's already promoted, that's entirely up to you, but it does mean you can actually fight Rilix with Lisa, and I've seen a few videos of people actually doing it, which is quite funny. Special equipment. Now, there are a few quite rare items to obtain in-game. Some are only available via enemy drops, and if you don't farm the enemies long enough, you actually won't obtain them. And there are also a number of items limited to mithril ore and mithril ingots. The trouble is, with there only being 8 of each mithril ore and mithril ingots, you have to be very careful about what you decide to build for each character. Unlike Shining in the Darkness, there is no enemy that drops mithril ingots and ore, and they are only found in the game. Each character also has a selection of 4 items that the blacksmith can forge for them, meaning there are quite a few items you simply can't get for all the characters in a single playthrough. So you will have to pick which mithril gear you want very carefully. Also, do keep in mind the very last mithril ingot, which is the larger mithril pieces you use for the weapons and armour, is not available until right in one of the very last treasure chests at the top of Godspeak, just before the final boss. While some of the mithril made gear is subjective as to whether it's the best equipment or not for a character, it does depend on which stats you want to try and boost. Doyle's best weapon, without a doubt, is the Mithril Claw, as it grants Doyle a new super attack that is very much like E Honda from Street Fighter's 100 Hand Slam attack, with Doyle throwing a whirlwind of punches at his enemy. The Claw also seems to have a hidden buff of improving Doyle's critical attack rate, so do grab it as soon as possible, as once he has it, he seems to perform a lot more supers than if he doesn't have it equipped. And sadly, annoyingly for my level 99 playthrough, I originally missed Doyle until right up until the end of the game, and by that point I had already used up all my mithril ingots, so it actually kind of annoys me now I don't have the Mithril Claw on that save file. But yes, the Mithril Claw is the best weapon in the game, and as soon as you get a Mithril Ingot, and I believe the first one is in the West Shrine, which coincidentally is straight after the earliest point you can recruit Doyle, I recommend getting him built one and then having him stuck in your forward rank, as he will slap down all the enemies silly, at which point. One item you certainly want to grab while in Desire Mine is the red dagger for Arthur. One of only 3 supporting dagger weapons in the game, and it's also the best one to boot. However, this is a drop only item, and it must be obtained from a drop from the enemy known as the Drag Grill. This is the more monstrous looking gargoyle creature which is found in the Return to Desire Mine as you make your way up to Godspeak. Now, as with all items, there's a fairly low drop chance. I'm not sure what the drop rate is for enemies, but it seems to be around 5% per battle roughly, so you can expect to go through quite a lot of fights where nothing is dropped, and I recommend trying to spawn and fight the same enemy constantly to guarantee the drop for that monster. What's cool about this dagger is it also has a super special attack, but in order to use this attack you have to actually select the dagger in combat as a use item, and there is a chance then it will trigger. However, with Arthur's sword doing more damage than throwing a standard dagger, most players will likely just equip it for the stats boost rather than for its special combat ability. I know I rarely throw the daggers in combat and just stick with the sword as it does so much more damage. And note the section of the map shown here in the video. Here is one square where you will guaranteed to encounter the Dragills in the mine, and they always spawn from the left on this square. As you'll see, they come from the left. So keep that in mind when selecting your pixies for the battle. Enemy encounters are actually fixed to a map grid, and the reason I've picked this farming spot is the map square behind it has a chance to spawn the Spike Dragon, which drops the Kusanagi Katana, which so happens to be the best weapon for Rodi and Akane, and that is another weapon that can only be obtained via killing an enemy. It's fair to say both characters get a bit left behind in the later half of the game, with Akane mainly on healing duties. Both the katana blades the blacksmith forges are a little underwhelming for sure, so this drop from the Spike Dragon really is the way to go, even if it may take you a while to get to. You can find it here at this point on the map, and it always rolls onto the screen from the right. While I'm on the subject of gear dropped by enemies, the Hammer Ghoul, a monster found in the Tower of Illusions, is the only enemy to drop the Dragon Sleeve Brace in game. There is no other way to obtain it. This one is more a matter of choice as it buffs different stats to some of the other endgame braces, and they're all a bit debatable as to which is the best one. It's more down to personal preference. I just wish a few of the enemies in Desire Mine and Godspeak had dropped mithril ore and ingots. So if there's any would-be modders out there, maybe have a look at some of the items that are dropped by some of the monsters in Desire Mine and swap two of them out so that they drop mithril ore and mithril ingots instead. I know I would have swapped the enemy, the statue in Godspeak, out with, because they drop the demon axe which the blacksmith can forge, which is a cursed axe for Beso, and I think that one should have been swapped to the mithril ingot. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's a question for you. Did you know Shining the Holy Ark supports the Sega Saturn Analogue controller? I bet you most of you didn't, because it's not mentioned anywhere in the manual. Or to give it its official name, the 3D control pad or the Sega multi-controller, pending where in the world you live. I just call it the analog pad, which is what it is. It's an analog supported pad. Now, while this might not be the most interesting feature in the game, partly I suspect due to all the graphics clipping it can cause, as trust me when I say most old school Japanese developers don't like bugs in their games. And I have worked with a few in my years working in the games industry. I've worked on a few games, and trust me, they do not like bugs. They like to fix them or hide them. But if you insert a Sega Saturn analog controller and set it to analog mode, that's the circle icon on the Switch, then when in game, if you press and hold the B button down, you can look around the screen with the analog pad. It acts like a more expanded version of the look function set to the X and Y button, and largely it is just purely cosmetic. I saw a few Japanese websites that suggested it allowed you to search areas you couldn't before, but I couldn't find no hard evidence of any additional items, and when I was doing it myself it seemed to largely just search the left and the right or the centre depending where you were looking, but it's a novel little feature. Hold down the B button when you're walking around a dungeon and just roll the analog pad again. Make sure the analog button is set to the little circle icon and just have a quick look. It's a fun little look feature, but if you have a look around you will see lots and lots and lots of clipping and popping in and out in various locations as shown in this clip. In fact, you can see some very odd visual changes in this footage, such as the growing and shrinking trees, although you can see that with the X and Y button as well when you look around. But yeah, it gives you a bit more fluid control of the view, that I will say. But it is a nice little extra feature, but nothing major. And yeah, I couldn't find any evidence of any additional items, but who knows? I didn't use it that much in game, so if anyone wants to play through the entire game and search literally every single square using it, let me know if you find any additional items or not, as the case may well be. The hidden pixie attack with Rodi's dagger, Japanese version only. Now, have you ever wanted a magic item just like the fairy bell that never breaks, which can be used right at the very start of the game to destroy every single enemy in it? Well, in the Japanese version, Rodi's starting katana blade, which is just called the Dagger in the English release, but I think a better translation of the original Japanese name would be Kozuka, has a special hidden use function that comes available after you find your first pixie in-game. Once you've found your first pixie in-game, you can then use the dagger in battle to trigger a fairy bell attack. I believe it triggers a special attack called the Giant Foot Attack, which was a rough translation of it. Do correct me if I'm wrong. And what this does is it acts like a fairy bell, triggering just one fairy, or how many you currently have, and it will do around 300 to 400 damage on every enemy on screen, as shown in the footage playing. Like I said, you only need one fairy for this ability to become active, but it will basically act as a fairy bell and make you able to absolutely flatten the first half of the game in record time. If you're planning on speedrunning it, then this technique is going to really help, and if you use the quick chicken cheat, then you can make sure Rodi is always the first person to attack in each battle. What this does mean, however, is that you mustn't sell the Kozaku at any point, else you won't be able to get it back. It is only given to Rodi when he first starts the game. There is no way to obtain it in-game, so do not sell it. Now, I'm not sure if you need any of the name cheats to work as well, but what I was able to test with, I was able to check a basic starting game and have this functionality work, and it didn't seem to need one of the latter cheats active either. It just seems to become available as soon as you get your first pixie in game. Now, I did test this on the PAL version, and I confirm this feature appears to be totally removed in the PAL and English release. I don't have a North American copy to try it on, but I believe it's been removed in the PAL version by all accounts. All my testing, I got even used the same save file where it worked in the Japanese version, wouldn't work in the PAL version. There may be a slight chance that you need all 50 pixies to unlock in the Western version, or you may perhaps need another character to use it possibly, but I think I'm going out on a bit of a limb there. In truth, this seems like a debug testing feature to help the developers play through the game faster, and in all likelihood, I suspect Sonic Software Planning forgot to remove it from the Japanese version, or just decided to leave it in for a bit of fun, but most likely the English testers and players found it and decided that it needed to come out, which is a shame as it's quite handy to speedrun it, but I can see why, because if you'd had this function and realised it, most English players gone, oh, just use the fairy bell, or just use Rodi's katana and just kill everything in the game. Yeah, it's definitely a debug item in my view. It's been left in the Japanese version. Unless there is a cheat to re-enable it in the Western version, it does not work. So you will need a Japanese copy for this cheat to work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the part where I come to the real meat and potatoes of the video, where we're actually going to have the naming cheats. There are, as I've discovered, a number of cheats where if Arthur's name is set to a specific name, certain special items will be granted in the inventory, or special effects will occur in-game. As far as I'm aware, not one of these has ever been documented in the English version before, and these are very, very helpful, some of them, and unlock some very cool features. Before I say anything more, I need to explain something that some of you will may be aware of, most of you won't be, but it's actually quite important in order to a couple of these cheats to work in the English language version. Shining the Holy Ark has a universal save file, in that the PAL version of the game can load a Japanese save and the Japanese version can load an English one, or in my case the PAL one. The only caveat is that the region you create the save file on will decide the starting names of the player characters. So if you create it on a Japanese game and load it on the English one, then all the characters' names will be in the Japanese katakana for the main party member characters. Likewise, if you do the same for the English version and then play it on the Japanese one, all the characters will then have their names in English. It's quite an interesting fact, and it's important coming up for a few of these cheats. Unfortunately, there's no way to rename the characters other than Arthur at the very start of the game. There isn't a renaming function I can find in game at present. So unless there's a hidden cheat to access it, unfortunately, you cannot change them. So keep that in mind as we go over the next few cheats. Of course, in order to do this, I should mention you will need a region modded Saturn or an action replay device that allows you to play different region games on your Sega Saturn. In theory, you should actually be able to do this with just simply saving the saves to a memory card, as the memory cards themselves are actually universal. So in theory, if you were to play the game on a PAL Saturn, save the save to the memory card cartridge, then transfer that memory card cartridge to the Japanese version, it should work that way as well if you had also had an NTSC Japanese Saturn. So there's that way as well. But the way I was doing it with the modded Saturn, and it does throw up a few quirks being able to read the Japanese save file with the English save game, but it's certainly an interesting feature that actually works for a lot of games on the Sega Saturn. But you only see it, of course, if you have a multi-region Sega Saturn, so we have a modded unit here at Randomised Gaming. Now, this first cheat works off the bat on both the Japanese and PAL versions, and I have tested it and confirmed it worked on both. So I don't want anyone in the comments saying it doesn't work, etc. I know it works. If you can't get it to work, you're just being a noob, quite frankly. And we do get a couple of people who will just put in random comments say, no, this is all fake, etc. And even though I've tested it and worked, there is slightly a chance that you may have a different revision. As I know I think there's 2 revisions of the game in Japan. There is possibly a chance some of those cheats don't work. But in the PAL case, it is the same revision, I believe. And all these cheats work. As I said, I've tested it on both the Japanese and the PAL version. I have not tested these on the North American version, but as the PAL version is based off that version, I believe they should work as well. So, on the naming screen, enter Arthur's name as the 5 characters ZX-9R, as shown in the video right now, all capital letters. After entering this name, continue through until you have control of Arthur. Once you have control of Arthur, you will notice his inventory is full of quick chicken, and Melody will also have a few in her inventory too. The name is a nod to the Kawasaki Ninja ZX-9R motorbike, so obviously someone was a fan of the bike at Sonic Software Planning. On the downside, if you use this cheat, you will have to put up with Arthur being called ZX-9R for the whole game, making it look rather out of place. And of course, anyone who sees this cheat will know instantly you've cheated to get all the quick chickens. But yes, if you fancy getting lots of quick chickens and you can use this to boost one of your character's agility up really, really high, then yep, you can take advantage of that. Now, this second renaming cheat is one that I could only figure out how to enter in the Japanese version. Despite my best efforts to translate it and to try and figure out what you might have to type in English, it only seemed to work with the Japanese katakana. And this footage shows me entering the katakana needed to activate the cheat, because some of the katakana is very similar looking and it won't work if you select the wrong ones. You have to enter Arthur's name as the term 00 or 00. Here's the katakana for it. And like the quick chicken cheat, this one is actually very helpful, as once you activate it, Arthur's inventory will be full of one of every permanent power-up item. So that's the Brave Apple, the Lucky Cookie, the Power Wine, and one quick chicken, you name it, it's all there. The magic nectar, everything. You get one of each. On top of that, you also get one of each of the healing items, so one additional magic herb, a potion and an elixir. You also get a pair of squeaky sandals as well for a bit of fun, so you can squeak away for the entire game if you want. Finally, if this cheat is successfully input, unlike the motorbike one, Arthur's name will actually revert back to Arthur instead of being 00 after you start the game. So it means you can use this cheat code with no shame whatsoever, as no one will realise you've cheated unless they see those extra items. This is actually quite a good cheat to start with the first time you're playing the game, as those additional power-up items are very handy to boost your character's stats. Sadly, as I mentioned at the start, I couldn't get this one to directly work initially in the English one. I can't figure out what you'd have to type. It seems to be looking for the location of the Japanese characters. But if you want to, you can transfer over the save file, start it in Japanese, so play through it up to Desire Village, and then transfer over to the English game and play from there. But do keep in mind, if you do this, your save file will then have Japanese character names for all the player characters, but the rest of the game will be in English. And sorry Gundam fans, this is not a reference to the 00 or 00 Gundam TV series, which was actually released much later. The best evidence I could find would suggest it might be a clothing store reference from the 90s in Tokyo or somewhere around in Japan, but I might be wrong on that, but that's the only thing I could find. It's definitely a reference to something, but I'm not entirely sure what. Finally, the last Arthur starting name cheat we know about here at Randomised Gaming is the big one. This one allows you a couple of cool functionalities. It allows you to swap out Arthur from your combat party, something the game normally does not allow, and it also unlocks the music and sound test in the option menu by pressing the R trigger button to bring up a separate sound test menu. As with the previous cheat, I couldn't figure out what this needs to be in English directly, so you will need a Japanese version again. However, as this one creates a special save file, it will work with the English version also. This requires you enter your name as the Japanese katakana for the word Shishi Odoshi, which means deer scarer, normally made of bamboo, or Sozu if it's an ornamental version. Once the game starts, if entered correctly, you will see an arrow in the top right corner of the options menu that will allow you to listen to any of the music in-game and sound effects menu by bringing up an additional menu. It can also be temporarily used to change the music of any location you are in as well if you change the music and play it and then exit out of the menu. Added to this, you can now change out Arthur from the party if you so wish. However, of course, this cannot be done until you have obtained a 5th party member, such as Akane or Lisa if you choose to sequence break. Now, what's special about this naming cheat is once you have a save file with the name in it, so once you go to Desire Village and save, I had mine save to the internal memory, it will apply this cheat to all other Shining the Holy Ark save files it can see. So this means on all your other saves it will unlock the sound test and function to swap out Arthur, for as long as the game can see the Shishi Odoshi save file. Which means that if you turn off the Japanese version, put in the power one and start a fresh game on it, it will then see the Shishi Odyssey save file, and I checked it and it works, and it will unlock the sound test and let you move out Arthur as well. And I have tested this, I showed this on stream as well, me doing it, it does work with the PAL version in the English game. Now, if there are any would-be data miners watching this video, now might be an idea to have a look at the game's source code to see if there are any other hidden cheat codes hidden in the game that haven't been public released, or if there's a way for the Shishi Odoshi or 00 or 00 code to work in the English version. There may well be specific characters you can type in that gets it to work, but I just can't figure them out at present, as there's no clear and easy match for the Japanese characters. I'd hope it's just a case of changing a few of the letters over. It may be a random selection of letters to get them to work. They may not work at all, but it would be nice if someone could have a more in-depth look and see if there are hidden cheats and codes in the game that we haven't covered before. And clearly no one's really delved into this before, seeing as I'm the first one to actually come of this. So now that we've got a starting point, we know about the quick chicken cheat. Someone take a look at the code, have a look, are there any other hidden cheats not here, and make a video or release them on the Shining Force Central board somewhere where Shining fans can appreciate them. As I'm not someone who delves into games coding generally, and I should actually probably take a look at some point, but yeah, you've got hex editor or something, just take a look at the games code. Can we find out any other naming cheats? Can we identify where they are? And will they work in the English version as well? At the minute, thankfully, we've got the Savefile feature, but it would be nice to get the other codes to directly work in the English version without importing a Japanese save file. Last but not least, it's time to talk about the Hattari. Yes, he's that purple little snake creature that everyone will end up farming thanks to the 3,333 experience points he gives out each time you take him out. He can be found in the East Shrine in a couple of locations, but this small side pathway I'm showing here in this part of the video is by far the quickest spot to spawn him on, as it's right at the start of the East Shrine on the first floor. And you can literally just go back and forth on the spot as well to summon him, but if you want a quick way to find him, then this spot here in the East Shrine is the way to go. Now the other place you can farm him is the Tower of Illusions near Mirage Village, and yes, for anyone asking, you can return there at any point by revisiting the gate in Enrich Castle. Just don't go selling any of the sacred treasures, as you need all three to reopen the gate. As with the East Shrine, there are a couple of spots in the first floor of the Tower of Illusions he appears in. This time around he also spawns with 1 or 2 gargoyle enemies for extra XP. Not only that, but the gargoyles also have a chance to drop the equipment item, the turbo boots, which all characters can use, and it's one of only 2 footwear items in the game, the other being the novel Squeak sandals, which don't offer any combat benefit, whereas the turbo boots do increase your agility, which is very helpful for the slower characters such as Beso and Doyle. The spot shown here in this corner is where I farmed him, but he does appear in the crossroads section to the left of the first staircase near the entrance. This one wasn't as easy to farm due to other spawn points around him, and there may be a few other spots he appears in on the first floor, I just haven't found them. You will be farming him a lot, as going to the final boss fight without farming can be very tricky. Indeed, kudos to anyone who can actually play through the game in one go without actually going too much back to heal up and doing XP farming, because towards the end of the game you really do need to do a little bit of XP farming. So the Hattari will be a little creature you will be killing an awful lot of. Okay viewers, thank you so much for watching this video up to this point. It is very much appreciated here at Randomised Gaming. And if you've enjoyed this video, or if you've learnt something new, please do leave a comment. I suspect there are going to be quite a lot of people who go, "Oh wow, I didn't know about this cheat." Apologies we weren't able to get every cheat into the English version, but hopefully maybe someone can data mine the game and figure out maybe you can type in something to get them to work in the English version. If not, they are going to be Japanese exclusive. As I said, do they work in the English version if you transfer over the save file? But do leave a comment if you've learnt something new. I think it's always good to spread a bit of knowledge here. Certainly I think it's quite a lot of these cheats haven't been covered in English before. Finally, there are actually a number of Easter eggs to the original Shining in the Darkness. The first one being the coin under the mayor's bed in Desire Village. Another one being the music that plays in the Tower of Illusions, which is clearly a homage to the original soundtrack in Shining in the Darkness when you entered the labyrinth. A few enemies from Shining in the Darkness also pop up in this one as well. However, one of the more cooler little Easter eggs that most people probably will not see because they haven't reached level 99 is when you reach level 99, much like Shining in the Darkness, it no longer gives you any experience once all your characters have reached the max level. Instead, it just says you are strong, which is the same as Shining in the Darkness. And this is the part where I leave you with the second half of the video where I play through with my level 99 characters, and yes, you will see me absolutely take apart both Rilix and Panzer. I don't think I even healed when I took them apart. I'd have done it even quicker if I'd had Doyle had the Mithril Claw, and no, I didn't max my characters unpromoted wise. I think I leveled them around 2021. So there's room for the unpromoted 6 characters to be even stronger, but if you ever wanted to see Panzer getting taken down super quick, have a watch. I'm actually going to go through all of Desire Mine just to show you how quickly you take down the enemies at 99 as well, although I've unlocked all the paths, so it's a quick trip up to Godspeak, and then you can see me take apart Rilix and Panzer with absolute ease. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay tuned for the playthrough, and again, hit the like button, and if you like our content, please do subscribe. And of course, you can check out my full playthrough on shining the Holy Ark on Twitch. I'll leave a description to it down in the video description as well. I did a full playthrough, me commentating over the full thing, and if this video gets a lot of demand, I might consider actually doing a YouTube video of the playthrough as well. But for now, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video, everyone.
you.